Okay, good evening, everyone. I am excited about tonight's call, and we never know how long these calls are going to be. When we initially started these over a year ago now, which is really hard to believe that time has passed by that quick, I figured these calls would be an hour long, and sometimes these go into 4 or 5 hours long. So there's just a lot going on in our country. There's a lot going on in the courts and in the streets and in our homes. And so there's a real need for our phone calls. And tell you, today I was given some information that I should speak to a certain gentleman, and I spent about 2 hours on the phone with this guy. And I'll get into a lot of that information later, but you know, there is remedy out there. There absolutely is. And I'll be working with this person on that. They're sending me some things, as well as one of the callers that's on here will be working on some things and bringing some other remedy to the table. Of course, we're not practicing law, but then again, every attorney that you know is licensed to the bar, which is the British registered, British accredited registry, and they are supposed to be licensed in each state. And if they're not licensed in each state, then they're not lawfully practicing law. And if anybody wants to, you know, add more to that, they're certainly welcome to. So the whole system from top to bottom is a sham. So,
hey, Randy?
Yes, sir. Go for it, Chris.
Well, Chris, one thing that people should know that Schwer versus the Board of Examiners and Sims v. Ahern, SIMMS-AHERN, there may be an A in there somewhere, says that the practice of law is a common right of which cannot be licensed, taxed, nor regulated. I recently thought I was going to be assailed under an unauthorized practice of law claim, and I memorized those two definitions so I could defend my position if I was so attacked, which I expected to be so by the Utah State Attorney General's assistant attorney in the Salt Lake case that I'm on. Just got back yesterday from there again. But you must have the law and facts and evidence to aver or to set off the claim of guilt when someone tries to charge you with this fallacious crime, which is not a crime whatsoever. It's a natural right. We all have to protect our own interest, to speak for ourselves, and defend our position. Thank you.
That was Sims versus Ahern, and what was the second one?
Schwer versus Board of Examiners.
Okay. That way everybody can write those down. And the calls, all the calls that we do are always available for playback. So, and Chris, I did hear through the grapevine that that was something that you might possibly be going through. So I was curious how that was, how you were handling it.
Well, after we get through the call and get ready for stories, I'll share an update with what's going on with that one. We don't know the final resolution, but I'll fill you in on the gory details.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So this is Thursday, February 20th, and as we do every single week, we are going to be swapping, sharing information, remedy. Our calls are for entertainment purposes only, and even though Sims versus Ahern is there and Schwer versus Board is there as well, for those three-digit agencies, as we like to call them, I've heard Chris say many times, the alphabet soup agencies. If you think about it, we'll go ahead and name them. NSA, IRS, DHS, CPS, whatever else is out there, none of them are friendly to the people. None of them. They all have issue with the people, which is interesting. So they forcefully take the tax dollars, and then they build these agencies, and then they bite the hand that fed them to begin with. So we're excited to be on these calls tonight. We want to open up with Dave, and he is going to tell us about something that happened. He caught it on the news and talk about standing. Dave, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
All right, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I had the opportunity, my brother sent me a link. It's from Channel 7 News in Denver. who has the following posted on their Facebook page. On Highway 36, which is a major thoroughfare that goes between the interstate north and south of Denver out to Boulder, there's some kind of, I don't know exactly what it is, there's something going on where they're trying to privatize Highway 36 and give this highway to some company for the next 50 years who plans on putting a toll and making it into a toll road. So it's all over the news, and people are up in arms, and so on and so forth. So what happened, I guess it was last night, what was posted on Channel 7 Denver's Facebook page says there's a second vote on the US 36 toll lanes planned today. Public comment was allowed at yesterday's meeting, but witnesses say anyone who spoke against the measure was escorted out. How's that for a First Amendment violation?
It's incredible, but not surprising.
And there's a link, and there's a YouTube video. Well, maybe not. There's a video from the news of some cop escorting this guy out because he spoke against whatever this policy was.
Do you know anything about, because obviously he was standing, he was speaking out. Did anybody cry out when he was escorted out? Do you know anything about that?
I don't have any information on that. I didn't even see the news clip myself, but it's something I'm going to be paying attention to in particular and see if I can reach out to anybody that I pick up a name or whatever.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything to say about that? Is that happening in your area?
Well, you may have recalled, Randy, I got evicted or ejected from a PUC, Public Utilities Commission, smart meter hearing for merely uttering one word. And, of course, you and most of the listeners on this show have the confident understanding of law that whenever someone makes a false claim or a lie, that you must challenge it, object, and base your objection on facts, law, and evidence to infer the unlawful or the lie that's being foisted as the truth, or else it stands as truth unrebutted. And the one word that I uttered that I was ejected for disturbing the meeting was objection, when they claimed that the smart meters saved money, which is a blatant out-and-out lie, and it's impossible for an instrument that consumes electricity to save electricity, although it may be able to turn off and turn on loads at their discretion. It uses electricity to make those commands opposed to an analog meter which operates off the inductive loads and power of magnetic fields that are generated through the consumption in the home as a analogous byproduct that does not consume any power whatsoever, called induced electricity. So these are common themes that we see practiced under the Delphi technique operated meanings of mind control and mass manipulation, which they also frequently incorporate the Hegelian dialectic, or the false paradigm of two apparent opposing positions, which are really the same utmost or ultimate end that they are seeking to get through and get the united opinion of the mass they wish to control by the manipulation of the facts.
So that's a mouthful about the smart meters. How do you get rid of them?
Well, the first thing is not to have one.
Right.
And I would suggest that people independently sue the individuals and their supervisors and their legislators who allow to put these on there as a class action for the people, because it's a trespass on your privacy and your private rights, the selling of your data without compensating you for it whatsoever, the making it very likely that your home could be invaded or surreptitiously accessed to implant incriminating evidence, or to have your home noticed to be vacant and not occupied so that criminals could actually come in and loot your home without your being there and safely do so. And these are absolutely constitutionally invidious devices. They invade on your First, Third, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment protections that are enumerated within the language of the Constitution that come from our natural rights from our Creator that are secured within the language of the Constitution. But you've got to articulate your issue well in your petitions and pleadings for redress to probably the federal district courts, or that they may try to deem it to be a political question, but it's absolutely an intrusion on your privacy and converts the wires in your home to a panopticon, or an invisible, almost impossible to discern prison where you're monitored 24/7, 365 in the most private areas. They can turn off and on equipment, computers, smart TVs, air conditioning, anything they choose to turn on or off in your home at will without your knowledge. And they can also use telephones and other acoustic devices as listening or transmitting other waveforms of communication of modulated power levels, anything from just an annoyance to something that will interfere with your ability to think, disorient you, or they could even kill you if they choose to do so, or modify your mind via autotronic manipulation. Post on smartmeters.com or stopthecrime.net. There are many different sites that are devoted to fighting against these insidious, invasive devices. And you can get stickers to stick on your meter that say no smart meter. I have an automobile parked up by mine with a mirror up by the meter that precludes anybody from getting it, and I've successfully fended off at least 5 different attempts to install smart meters on my home or my water meter so far.
Well, maybe a class action, maybe that's a document we can all be working on, and then everybody unanimously sends them out and serves them with it. Maybe that's something that a group of us can be working on and massively get that out across the country. I know when I post something. Go ahead.
The only thing wrong with class action, unless you're bringing it yourself under the PAG Act or other aspects of private suits by the people who are bringing the suit, they generally enrich the lawyers, and the injured parties get very little cure for their injuries. But you can privately sue these individuals in their private and employment capacities for assaults on your private rights, and then you can sue them and get their stuff and hold them liable for invading your privacy and other intrusions and trespasses on your private rights under 42-1983 and perhaps even 18-1961 and several other private rights of action torts for damages.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, instead of doing a class action, why don't you do what's called a mass action, whereby you'd have a document prepared, a suit prepared, and then you'd have each individual file their own suit, the similar suit, but each person would file it themselves. So then they would be defending, that one individual would be defending 50 of the same lawsuits at different times, which will put them in a real bind, as opposed to doing a class action.
Say, Keith, that's an interesting concept I haven't heard articulated before. Do you have any cases of that nature you might be able to send to Randy to send out to us to let us know what sort of templates they use for bringing those stuff? I mean, it sounds like a multi-party action. It could be either multi-defendants or multi-complainants, either one, or petitioners for redress versus the criminals that are taking the action against, obviously. So if you've got something that you know about that, please share with us.
No, I don't have anything. I've heard of it. And basically what it is if I was to file a lawsuit against Florida Power and Light, I would give you a copy of that lawsuit, and then you would put your information on it, and then you would file it against Florida Power and Light. and then you would give it to Randy. Randy would do the same thing. So now Florida Power Light is defending 10 suits all across the country, as opposed to a mass action where they only have to answer one complaint.
Well, I certainly support that idea because, like I say, usually the class actions are brought by large law firms, and the people very seldom get anything out of it. The attorneys get rich at the people's expense, and the people are left basically penniless for all their efforts and all their injuries, and the attorneys get rich. So I like the idea much better.
Okay.
All right. Dave, did you want to talk more on standing?
I guess the only thing I can say on standing is, we need to unite and stand up against the criminality of being forced by someone's non-authority to being escorting people out, or not being able to readdress the government, or there's got to be something going on. You see what's going on in Ukraine on watching the Olympics or watching the news. I'm afraid that something like that's going to happen over here because of it's so corrupt and it's so overbearing on they're just pushing people on the ground over and over and over again, and no one's doing anything about it, not a damn thing about it. They're just accepting it. So it's people's fault just as much.
Well, you're right, David. Whenever somebody assaults your rights and trespasses on your rights to freedom of speech in these meetings, they have then committed a constitutional dimension violation. So you could therefore sue them under Title 42, 1983 or 85, parenthetical 3, depending on what their capacity of governmental employee or private corporate employee they may be. But you can certainly bring a tort for damages on assaults or trespasses on your private rights to freedom of speech and their retaliatory class-based animus to eject you for merely uttering your opposition that you have a lawful duty to import to the group. And when they do that, whoever's in chair or whoever the person that ordered your eviction or ejectment from that meeting is definitely culpable, liable, and suitable for damages.
I can appreciate that, Chris, but, where's the processes to be able to hold them accountable to even accept such a suit?
Generally, my estimation is you have to go to the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals and whatever your jurisdiction venue is, and you have to use the proper language, as we've discussed before, specifically to access the proper courts for Americans, being the Article 3 General Justice, small d, small c, district courts of the United States of America under Article 3, under the natural common law, with lawful justices in lieu of mere magistrates impersonating justices, enjoying life tenured appointments at the hand and seal of POTUS, and compensation is not diminished during good behavior.
How does that sit with you?
I appreciate your knowledge, Chris. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, the conversation that I had today with the gentleman, he was actually referred to me by Dave, and he was a genius when it came to the laws and our rights. And this guy is actually winning his cases. And it's not just his cases, it's the cases that he helps other people with. Chris, you may have heard of his book. It came out in, it was right before 9/11. So what year was that?
About 2001.
Oh, one? Okay, I was going to say 02, but you're right. It was called Vultures. Does that sound familiar? No? Okay. Well, he sent me a copy of it, and the thing is it was chock full. And Dave, do you have a copy of it yet?
No.
Okay.
What's the gentleman's name, if you wouldn't mind, Randy?
Milt, and Dave, what's his last name?
Give me a moment. Let me.
Give me 1 sec, too.
You're not talking about Melvin Stampler, are you?
No.
No, Milt.
Like a Milt Mitchell or something like that. Mitchell, or give me a moment.
Paul Mitchell?
Yeah.
I have Mitchek. That's what I had written down, but I might have said it wrong.
No, yeah. Let me. I've got him on my phone. Give me a moment here.
Okay. Bottom line is this, and I'll give you as much back that he gave me. We ended up talking for 2 hours. Obviously, I won't go into 2 hours worth of things, but I'm going to talk about some of the cases that he mentioned to me. And Dave, maybe you have some information as well. But he was telling me a story, and many of you may have heard about it. Senator Stump, he said that there is 2 types of people. There's only 2 of them in this country. One is a slave, and one is the free people. And you can guess what they consider us and what they consider themselves. And so when he goes into court, he basically writes a 1-page document. And I asked him for a copy of that document, which he is unwilling to share that and put me to the task of doing my own research on certain things, which is fine. He doesn't want to put that in writing unless, I guess, you, I don't know if it's hire him or make a donation or however it works. Because I said, an army of us writing these 1-page documents is much better than one person writing these 1-page documents. But he differs in opinion, and he has his reasons why, which he did explain. And I definitely don't want to. And to a point, I have a bit of agreement with him. But then on the other hand, our calls, you guys are strong, and you're willing to learn, and you have guts, and you're willing to put these things in writing. So I really wish I could have gotten a hold of that. If anyone has it, though, they're able to share it. So, Dave, if you have copies of any of it, I would love to see it.
Let me share this with you. This gentleman called me out of the blue Monday night. I think it was Monday night. I have no idea who he is. He calls me and asks me if I'm David. I says, yes, I am. He says, do you have time to talk? I says, sure. He introduced himself, told me where he's from, and told me he's reading my website. Someone passed it to him. So he actually called me, I guess showing some compassion, knowledge, and understanding to kind of outline a few things of processes for me to look at. We probably spoke for a good hour or thereabouts, and the following day his wife sent me an email and says, here's information on the corruption in Colorado. So the information she sent me, I guess she didn't realize, was my website. So,
of all things.
I got a kick out of that. So I thanked her for that, but I also let her know, but that's me. That's my site. But anyways, I introduced this gentleman. His name is Mitchek, Mitch with an E-K. And he's out up in the northeast, or northwest, I should say. And we had a good conversation, and I'm sure we'll be having follow-up conversations as time goes by. He called me out of the blue to let me know who he was, and just some friendly advice and some conversation.
Well, I would certainly suggest, Randy and Dave, if you, Dave, already have a line of communication open with him, and if we knew what his fee for assistance in providing his template is, it would certainly not be without contemplation that many on this call would be able to donate a modicum for the benefit of all of us and make it a much smaller elephant to eat, one bite at a time, for $1 or $2 or $5 per listener here. That I think that would not injure most of us too dramatically if it could actually hold some hope of cure, amelioration, and seeking redress for our grievances.
Chris, I forward you his information. I just texted to you.
He did send his book out today, and what he said is he put the book out, and like practically overnight, over 250,000 people got it in their hands, and that did go around the internet. And then 9/11 happened, and that kind of stole the thunder of the book. But the result of that was all kinds of people that quit, judges that walked away, cops that walked away, lawyers that stepped down, because people took that information and used it, and these people were forced out. And then what he said is they basically took my book behind closed doors, and then they changed all the laws again. So that's one of the reasons he hates putting the remedy out there in mass, because some people will screw it up, and it's like the operator game when you get it, you hear the whole story, and then 10 people later it's changed, it's been edited, it's this and that, and then people start going into court and losing. His one request is if you do have a remedy, and this goes for anybody, if you have a remedy and you're willing to put it out there, it's worked for you, put in there that it's an original document. That way people know that it has not been changed. And I'll give you a couple of stories. And I may not say this 100% exactly, but he or his wife were pulled over, and the cop wrote him up the citation, etc. He puts together this document, and what he did is he did the typical 72-hour rescission, thanks but no thanks. But then he immediately, and this is something all of us can do, he immediately counter-sued the cop for $10,000. Let me see if I can find my notes. And what that caused is the cop immediately quit his job. The judge, I believe it was the judge that he said, or maybe it was the chief of police, lied and said that the cop left the country for Costa Rica, when in fact they put a trace out on the cop and found that he had gone down to southern Texas and became a Border Patrol agent. And
Randy, this is something we see over and over within these agencies, be they school districts or law enforcement or any other churches, whatever the agency is, where they recycle and they send them up, they hide the crime, they ship them out, they change their names. In fact, the case I'm in Salt Lake, all the Child Protective Services people have pseudonyms. They don't even operate under their real name to try to hide who they are, so they'll be less able to be located to be sued for their criminality.
Right. And on some of those things, there's a statute of limitations, and in this one in particular, it was 5 years. So after the 5 years was up, guess what? His wife gets pulled over, and the guy looks eerily familiar. And she says to him, "Aren't you so-and-so?" He closes up his book, turns right around, gets right back in the car, and drove off so fast he was breaking all laws. And they never heard another word. He never said another thing. They never saw him again either. But the trick was this. Rescind the citation in 72 hours and countersue that person. And he put a $10,000 number on it. Does that give anybody any good ideas?
Well, that's holding them privately accountable for their actions, and although I think the $10,000 number sounds pretty minuscule in this day of Obama numbers that are off the chart and outside the realm of reality, I was just looking at a case in Salt Lake yesterday against for a fraudulent adoption. They were looking for $120 million. I expect the case that I'm on, when it eventually goes, could be very close to $1 billion, because they've had these children for almost a year and a half, never any probable cause, never any warrant, no service of process. It's a real horrendous situation, and it's just about to come to fruition from the administrative standpoint in the district courts for juvenile there in American Fork, Utah. They're supposed to have a decision out sometime this week. We don't know when. We were there till almost 9 o'clock Tuesday night, after being there all day on Valentine's Day and 3 previous days.
He did mention a Child Protective Services case, and the situation went something like this. I didn't throw it in record mode out of respect for him. I wanted to, but I didn't, because I just wanted to keep it for myself just so I would never forget this conversation, because it was just that fascinating. But the bottom line of the Child Protective Services case is there was a mid-20s gentleman is dating a girl, living with a girl who has a child. The girlfriend decides to go out. He was on the phone briefly. In the time he was briefly on the phone, the child touches the hot on the bathtub sink, or bathtub, scalds him or herself. I don't know what the sex of the child was. Gets scalded. He calls 911. They come out. Of course, an investigation ensues, and he gets blamed for scalding the child. He claims his innocence. That goes to the mat. He's prosecuted, and in the case, he is told, and he agreed to it, that he would never, ever father a child, which is unbelievable. But that's what he agreed to. So years go by. He meets the love of his life, marries her, fathers a child. He's an entrepreneur. He's living somewhere else. He fires an employee that's working for him. That guy is disgruntled, knows about the owner's background, this guy, calls the Child Protective Services, even though nothing has happened. They have the guy has a 3-year-old. So he calls and turns him in that he had a kid. They come in, swoop in, take the child, and him and his wife are absolutely distraught. They tell her, the wife, that if she ever wants her child back, she's going to have to divorce him. So Milt gets involved in the case. They found out about him. They're at their wits' end. There's 3 attorneys involved. The state-appointed one for the child, and then the husband and the wife each have separate attorneys as well. So they get rid of their personal attorneys. They can't get rid of the state-appointed one. He comes in with on this one, it was a 1 to 4 page document. It's pretty big. He said there's about 300 people there at the court hearing, about 150 on both sides, all kinds of law enforcement, Child Protective Services people. It's a circus. It's a zoo. This is a big case. The judge reads his documentation, looks at everybody in the courtroom, and says, we're going to postpone this hearing for 8 more days. Place clears out. He talks to the judge. The judge says, what is it you want? Says this to Milt. Milt says, I want the child back. I want the family put back together, and I want his record expunged. The judge gave him everything he wanted. So I can promise you I'm going to find out what's in these docs because, basically what he's asking is this man's constitutional right going to be upheld? Is this an original Constitution court? Not the fake stuff that they've all changed it to, but it has to do with the original Constitution. That's one of the first questions that's being asked to the judge.
Think back to Marbury versus Madison and Miranda Supra. Waivers of rights must be cognizant, knowing, intentional actions, and even then they may not be able to be waived because they're not constitutional rights. They come from your Creator, and so therefore they cannot be waived.
That's right.
If you don't mind my adding on to what you're saying there, I observed some particular curious nuances. These DCFS and Child Protective Services courts, and most of these courts are really and truly, in fact, in law, kangaroo courts, marsupial courts if you want to be nice, but they merely have the appearance of being disparaging, disinterested parties. They're really a collective unit, a tactical military force posed as a warring machine against whoever they drag into these courts. After the pretender defender meets with the victims in a little room outside before court to try to play let's make a deal or figure out what their alleged plan of attack is going to be in the case, they run down the hallway like they're going to the bathroom. Instead of going to the bathroom to the left, they make a hard right through the clerk of the court's office in a different room, run to the back hallway, run up the hallway, and they meet in secret. They call it in camera or ex parte in the judge's chamber, and let her know what their plan of attack is going to be to protect the interest of the court by their oath to the bar, their oath to as officers of the court, and not to the mere money-paying clients. Corpus Juris Secundum, Volume 7, Attorney-Client Relationships, specifically. But these are such a facade of justice, they have no elemental justice whatsoever. They are violating of due process. They obstruct justice, and they harangue and threaten and everything else. Every judicial canon of ethics and professional code of ethics virtually is violated in these cases day in and day out.
That is true. In this particular case with his child, he did mention to me, and this is an important part of the details, that they proved in court that he was, I don't think father of the child was the wording, but it had to do with, ownership of the child. The child belonged to him. Okay, so the courts didn't question that part. And
the
so
biological parent?
Yeah, but that wasn't the wording he used. But then he said that what he did is he put a lien on the child, I think is what he did. He filed a lien, and it was really large, like, I don't know, I want to say more than $10 million, if that makes sense. Put a lien on the guy in favor, so it would benefit him. So if anybody else had a claim to the child, they would have to pay the lien first. So I don't know if that helps you with the case that you're involved in, but
well, that's certainly an interesting contemplation. I certainly see how that could apply. And this is sort of, remember this, taking ownership of the name. When the state hijacks and claim jumps your name, which is theft of your familial rights at the birthing or whenever the live-born child enters the earth, it's a criminal act. It's identity theft at very least, and conspiracy to basically steal your wealth throughout your life through these taxing schemes they construct through these Social Security slavery enslavement and these other government programs that the state gets actual monetary compensation from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Social Security Title 4 and 5 Acts funds that are provided to the states to conscript all of us to a lifelong slavery.
That's right. Now, we did talk about promissory notes, and he has, in fact, used them in the past, and they've been successful. Someone's got me on speaker, or their phone on speaker. They need to take it off so we can remove that echo. Okay, so promissory notes, if you don't know what they are, you've got to research into them. We've done several calls on the promissory notes. And if you need the notes on the promissory notes, then send me an email and put need info on promissory notes. And I'll go ahead and send you the notes out from when Eric was on our calls. So he has used those. And then also one of the recommendations is when you go before you go to court, and he said he has stopped into a couple of attorney general's offices in a couple of different states, and he will walk in and ask them about Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, and it talks about the currency. And, for example, if you have a citation that needs to be paid, okay, you're already at that point, there's no 72-hour rescission of the citation, you're stuck. You're going to have the citation. You're there. So you want to pay it off. You can say, Judge, I don't want to break the law. Okay, these are his exact words, and these are things that have worked. I do not want to break the law. How would you like me to pay for this citation? Because we know that their currency is backed by nothing, the Treasury notes. And he has had cases where he'll ask the judge, well, how do you want me to pay? Do you want me to pay in gold or silver? Which they don't accept anymore. They don't operate in that as a currency. And then their currency is worthless. So he's had judges just look and say, all right, case dismissed. So you need to really study Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, because you can avoid, if you want to do a promissory note and then they want to come back at you and say, oh, well, we don't accept this, instead of getting into that fight, ask them ahead of time, hey, I don't want to break the law. How would you like me to pay for this? And what kind of currency would you like me to tender?
What form and species would you like me to tender the payment in?
And then you can avoid. Say that again.
Well, I say, what form and species of lawful money would you like me to tender the payment in to satisfy the debt or whatever it is? You're right. There is no money. That's what the set-off debt, discharge debt from the 33 bankruptcy is all about. But I know that I was in a case today where a guy took a guilty plea for probation for 3 years on trying to set off debt under a debt validation thing and a discharge of a one-way wire funds transfer act instrument. So they claim it's only for bankers. It's private law, only for them. And that's the equal access in the laws. And this corrupt judiciary we have, this Talmudic facade of a judiciary, the judiciary, is really the crux of the problem that we have to overcome in this diabolical scheme to undermine the constitutional republic and the natural law of the land that we're supposed to be living under, which has been taken over by these global Zionist cabals, assemblies of worshipers of Baal, those things.
In Article 1, Section 10, it says, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So right there, they're violating their law. If they say, well, I want you to give me a check or pay cash, well, then you're paying with something that's it's not in alignment with the Constitution. So what is their, that's why asking about their oath is so important. And asking what kind of court of law are we going by the original Constitution? Or are we going by the corporation? Or what is it that what are we going by in this court? So he says he uses the KISS system, which is keep it simple. And it doesn't have to get too intricate. You can stop it on the face, pretty much every single one of them. These judges walk away, they quit, they leave the bench, they postpone things, and they come back and dismiss it, you name it. So those are a couple things that you really have to understand. And again, when I have his book in hand, I have his blessing to use anything in it and share everything in it. Gabe, did you want to add anything to any of that? By the way, the DHS, or maybe it wasn't DHS, the CPS, who brought the claim against that father, when he had the 3-year-old child, they took that child away. Not only did all of that, he got everything he wanted and he got his kid back, but the 2 agents that brought the claim lost their jobs.
They probably should have been imprisoned.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they habitually perjure themselves, they lie, they fabricate fictitious stories, that are contrived to incriminate. That's false prosecution, malicious police reports. These are all criminal acts that these people do, and they try to suppress the evidence by avoiding having an evidentiary hearing ever. And that's a denial of due process and obstruction of justice, and it's a total scam. These DCFS courts, they're criminal cabals. In fact, it's just really because it's the corporate state, and they. Let me tell you what happens in this court. You've got a whole team of pro se executioners. You got a guardian ad litem. You've got the state's assistant attorney general pro se executioner. She has another DCF worker sitting there with her. And then you got the judge that's assisting the prosecution from the bench intermittently, so that's another side of it. But then they have about 15 or 20 other DCF workers out there in the galleries, all with little BlackBerries and tablets, and they're texting back and forth to text other questions or points to try to aid the prosecution from the gallery. And, of course, they're the only ones that are allowed to have and do these devices in court. The rest of the court can't do that. How is that equal access to justice? That's special provisos. And it's a horrendously horrific, it's the old Babylonian, Sumerian, Talmudic ministerial court scams. The ecclesiastical courts, the church courts of Satan is exactly what it is.
That's right. Now, there's something interesting, you guys, and I'm excited. I'm sorry, who was that?
This was Keith.
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
And I was just asking, did he say how you can order those books?
I don't know if he's putting them out there at all. I just said I want one of your books. So he's sending me it, and I'm free to give copies, make copies, whatever. I have full permission with it. So he doesn't have a website. He doesn't do radio. He doesn't do interviews for the most part. And, I just feel like I was really lucky to even have that conversation with him, to be honest. So as soon as I have it in hand, believe me, I'll share.
Okay.
The other thing that you mentioned, I don't know how exciting this is to most of you, but it's super exciting to me, is he stopped paying property tax years ago, and he did it by making a simple declaratory statement and gave it to them. And again, from his book, we should be able to pull as much as we possibly can in regards to that. They came back on him, he said, about 5 years ago and attempted again to make him pay property tax. And he just reiterated his declaratory statement, and they've never come back on him since. So it's not going to court. It's not becoming a big battle. They just leave him alone. Chris, do you have any experience with that? I know you and I have had a conversation.
If your land is the simple absolute alloyal title where it's made under a grant of land-made patent, which is the highest form of title in lands that one can hold unassailable other than by a higher, more well-seated senior patent that might be able to override it if it was in question as to its veracity or validity, your property lies without the jurisdiction of the corporate taxing schemes of the corporate state, and therefore would not be taxable under the property tax. Remember, the parcelization scam is to overlay and to claim jump these life with a family tenured grants that are rights of hereditary rights that can be passed to the heirs or assigns forever. And the globalists would love to get rid of those rights in private property. But I can tell you, this is the only way to free yourself from the debt slavery trap of these corporate predators in the states from stealing your wealth and eking out your substance through their taxing schemes, is to get your acceptance of land grant and never file it in the state, because the grant doesn't emanate from the state. It emanates from treaty law, the law of sovereign nations to contract freely, unlimited, and the rights of the treaty flow with the grant of land made patent to the heirs or assigns that obtain it lawfully. You must have an unbroken trail of accountability back to the original treaty law to prove your nexus and lexus that's protected by these grants of land made patent by the hand and seal of POTUS and the power of Congress and administered to the Bureau of Land Management. That's where your recordings of your ownership should be, is in either the federal district courts under a miscellaneous recordation with the clerk of the court or through the Bureau of Land Management's recordations records depository where the records are held. But this is precisely how you extinguish those onerous and theft-based taxational scams on your private property.
Hello, Randy?
Yes.
Actually, let me make a comment on that. The residents are the one who really do not domicile on the land. It's residents is the one that they said is residing in and basically a corporation state. So there is a law basically with a big S as a state. I was looking at the Pennsylvania Code, and one of the titles, it says a state with a big S means small s state, comma, Commonwealth, comma, District of Columbia, comma, possession of the United States, comma, so on and so forth. Okay, so basically, state is not a land, and is not a nation. Basically, state contains many different things, and one of the basically in Pennsylvania there's a state, then there is a commonwealth. So then I was reading about the resident in the title, vehicle title. It says resident means person. Okay, person could be individual, a natural person, corporation, association, estate, trust, whatever. So resident is a person who resides consecutive days, 60 or more days, and except, it says except a non-resident who, except a person who reside in different state. Now they're talking about state with a small s, not residing within the Commonwealth, but it says resident, a person who is residing in one of the states shall declare. Okay, so basically the resident could be a corporation, association, trust, estate. So now when you have a driver license and you become a resident, and now you could be corporation, association, whatever, okay, what the law says. So now you are one of the category of that thing, and then I'm going to specify you is your liability to specify who you are. So when you get a driver license, basically you are registered as a resident, and then you actually show that as an ID and obtain a mortgage loan. Now you are listed as a resident who could be a person or estate or trust who is asking a mortgage. So now you have to pay property tax because of a resident is a corporation, trust, estate, an association, or a natural person, whoever. And natural person can be alien who come from another country too. So that natural person really doesn't define who it is. So now the resident has the usury rights and cannot own the land. So It has the usury rights and interest rights, and property does not mean a tangible property. You cannot touch that property. It doesn't mean something you can touch. In their language, I have a case law states that the property means only interest and usury rights. So now you're paying taxes on that because you declare that you are the resident. So resident is the one that will reside in the residence and then residential property. So it's all related. So when you're a resident and you're residing in residence, which means a resident who doesn't have intention to return, and when you declare a domicile, a man could only have one domicile. That means always have to return to that home and intention to live there. Now, once you do that, you become a national because you actually live on the land. You're the dominion of that property. So when you
one of the things that he mentioned is, I put it in quotes, this state, or everybody should write this down and go look it up. Everybody have a pen. Chapter 836, page 2708, section 13 of ORS, or Oregon Revised Statutes 131.205. It's in the quotes, in this state. And in Oregon, they say something about land and water, air, space, above the land and above the water and below the land and below the water versus the land. And I don't know if that's kind of what you're talking about, Gloria, but that definitely needs to be looked up and studied. He said, actually,
yes,
Chris, Nevada Revised Statutes is written better.
That's a thing called Admiralty and Maritime Jurisdiction, where everybody is above the land and the water. So you're not really on the land or something that's touchable. There's something that you can walk, and they created a corporation. And corporation.
Well, what he did, though, let me cut you off here a second, Gloria. What he did about 2-3 weeks ago is he challenged Oregon in regards to that, and that section of their website has been down now for 2 or 3 weeks. So he has challenged them, and that's what he, one of the things that he says is, we got to step up to the plate and start to challenge them on some of this BS that they're putting in there. And he said you can win these things with a one-page document. It voids out all the statutes and everything that they're doing when you just come in with a one-page document. And, of course, we don't have his exact wording on it, but we'll get as close as we possibly can. Keith, I heard you. Go ahead. And then, Gloria, you can pop back in.
Yes. One of the reasons why we don't have a allodial title to our land is because we never accepted the deed. Because if you read the deed is the patent on the land, because it's conferring ownership to the grantee and their heirs and assign forever. And we're not buying the real estate with the title. I mean, with the deed, we're getting the land. But because they trick us and don't let us sign it, we never took ownership, and that's why we become renters and residents. So the trick is to try to get that deed and sign it, and then do not register it. Okay? And then you have a allodial title because you are the owner. They're always looking for the owner, but the owner never shows up.
He did say on the tax thing he was able to do that without all this allodial stuff. I don't know if you guys heard me, but on the tax thing, he didn't deal with anything allodial. He just challenged them. They left him alone. They don't want this stuff out there. But go ahead, Gloria. The floor is yours.
The deed is recorded by the title company, so you cannot control the deed too much. And accepting the deed is not really a allodial title. floral title is actually you have to get a patent or go back about 100 years and dig out the owner of the land. And there is a way to actually make it into yours, and you claim it, that piece of property belongs to you. So you have a track of the deed that is granted and granted and granted and granted and came to you. So you just accept that, 100 years ago. So there's a way to do it, and they're recognizing that. But today's deed is actually in the enmity over the land and water. So basically, once they put the mortgage lien, now you have to satisfy that mortgage, otherwise you are doomed. That's why everybody, that they're losing their house because of that. The mortgage, the deed is recorded and there's a lien. So basically, a bank is owning the interest of your house and until you paid in full. But once you find the fraud, then you are no longer liable to pay. And also you could bring the UCC code because once you tender a promissory note, you are no longer liable. And the bank is not using that law, and we are not allowed to use these laws in court, but that's a fraud because banks use that in the DTC side when they are securitized these loans. And the promissory note is basically treated under UCC code. And so they are using it in DTC and transaction in the District of Columbia for stock market, but we're not allowed to use it. So that's when you have to bring the judge oath of office and then let them bound by these laws that they have to practice. Okay, so it's not fair, is it? When banks use it for themselves, but people cannot use it.
But the reason why the deed is recorded is because the owner never claimed the deed. So therefore, it's recorded, and the recorder is holding it for the owner to come and claim it. So if you claim the deed at closing, there's no need to record it. All you have to record is an affidavit of transfer of deed. So that's why they call it the mezzanine. The mezzanine is holding the deed.
Many people try that, and not too many people are successful with that technique. And that's already went through about 2 years ago with a rock rider and everything. But that's not the way to go. The way to go is basically you have to either become a national and declare your status, and you are not a resident anymore. When you become a national, you become a creditor. Now you could attack anybody of being that status. And the Department of State is going to try to prevent for you to become national, and they will do any way they can to stop you. That's because of, there's a big secret for that.
Randy,
I actually, on the closing table of my place, the notary, when I said I didn't want her to register the deed, because I actually have my own copy, and got the owners to sign it over on the table, she said she would have to stop all proceedings. Of course, you don't want to end your closing of anything, but that's what I experienced on the table. Is she said, well, I'm going to have to stop all proceedings.
That's a very important point, Randy. The notary is an agent of the state, an officer of the court, by her capacity as a notarial officer. And she has an obligation and duty, just like you observed, to protect the state's interest in stealing your property.
That's right.
A couple of other points that were discussed that are very important. Let me suggest to everyone on this call that at 2 o'clock p.m. on my time, Monday through Friday, on the microeffectradio.com, Roger Sales, S-A-Y-L-E-S, has a program called the Radio Ranch. He is the author of from sovereign to serf, government by the treachery and trickery of words. And he is one who, as Gloria was suggesting, has corrected his political status by becoming an American or U.S. national on his passport. And in this book, From Sovereign to Serf, he has a 5-page affidavit of status that he serves to the Secretary of State, who is the controller of the registration. And that takes you out, and like she says, and makes you a creditor rather than a debtor as a 14th Amendment subject slave citizen. Remember the word resident. Race in law is the thing. ID is abbreviation for identified. ENT is abbreviation for entity. So a resident is a thing identified as a corporate fictitious entity created by the state by your failure to take yourself out of the system and properly delineate yourself by filing a correction of affidavit of status to delineate your political status, that we all have the universal right to self-declare, and if we declare it, no one has the ability to come against us and to counter us with anything else, because it's our private right to elect and select our own political status.
Okay, so everybody needs to get on that call and listen to the past calls. So Roger sells it was called microeffect.com. Do I have that right?
Yeah, microeffectradiostation.com. He comes on at 2 o'clock Pacific, adjust for whatever time zone you might be in. Runs about a 2-hour show. And also on Saturdays, they have quite a bit of good law talk, specifically with Glenn Ambort related to no1040tax.com site. He talks about that, and there's a couple of other law gurus. There's another one that's a common law constitutional guru on there, and very good, down to earth. It's another good channel for those who like to listen and learn about these concepts that very few people know, because they try to hide it through the twisting of the words and laws and the obfuscation of the truth by taking the truth out of their law books.
What's the website? Micro what?
The micro effect. Hang on, let me get it up here. I'll tell you exactly how to get there. I'll send a link to Randy. She can send it out. The microeffect.com. microeffect.com. I'm going to send Randy a link right now.
Microeffect.
Uh-huh. Also, there's some guys on republicbroadcastingnetwork.com that at 8 o'clock Pacific, they have a show called Resurrect Republic, trying to wipe out the 14th Amendment. They were playing some very interesting and enlightening recordings from a fellow by the name of Myron Fagan from back in the 1930s or 40s. And this guy was laying it out exactly how these global Zionists are trying to take over the world, and the different schemes and lies and all the different things that are happening that we see before our eyes today are coming to fruition. And they're pretty sprightly guys. They come from the founders' rudimentary lines, and they're truth seekers also, and they put on a pretty good show. So those are a couple of places you might like to look. I was listening to Freedomizer this evening for this call, and they had Steve Quayle on there, and he's got a new book coming out called Xenogenesis, or Gen-Isis, if you prefer. I think the book of Genesis is really Gene-Isis. Of course, Isis is the female demon goddess entity of the ancient Sumerian, Babylonian, and Egyptian or Kemet pharaonic groups. But very, very interesting commentary Mr. Quayle was putting out, and I was totally enthralled and took massive amounts of notes, and lots of things coming down in the big scheme of things between the battle of good and evil, my estimation and his.
There is, I watched or listened to an interview of Joe Arpaio's lead investigator into Obama, and they're coming out with what's supposed to be blockbuster information. They're coming out with it in March. I'm hoping it's March 1st. But that's coming out too, and that's by his lead investigator. It was a pretty interesting interview. By the way, I did an interview this week, about 2 hours long, with an attorney who specializes in 42s, Title 42s, and Title 18s. And now this is a guy who goes after cops, mostly bad cops, and he really doesn't touch a case unless he thinks it's winnable. And so he looks at the violations, and he knows exactly when they're going to claim immunity, and that they were working, within their scope. And he covered several of his cases, but one of the questions I asked him is, do you ever just ask if the judge has an oath of office? Do you ever go and seek that out, or the cops, or even the other counsel? And he, and no disrespect to him, but this is just the way it is in attorney land. He said that's an interesting concept. He never thought of that.
Are you going to share his name or practice with us?
I don't, because that interview is coming up, and I'm also trying to protect him somewhat, because he's out there in the public eye. So in the entire interview, I never say his name, and I don't even introduce him on the front end of it when recording.
There are likely a couple of us that would dearly love to talk with someone of that caliber and perhaps forge an alliance.
Yes, that I'll do. He is in the Midwest, and again, he knows when he can win a case and when he can't. He did say, which I thought was interesting, that he does try to keep the cases more at the state level, but, and not go into the 42s and 18s. And, I swung a case by him the other day when we were interviewing, and we all pretty much have the penalties sheet, and it talks about the different violations and what the penalty would be. Any one of our Bill of Rights, $250,000 penalty, not having an oath of office, $250,000 penalty. And he did not know of those fees. And again, that just struck me as odd, because that is his specialty. And so when I ran this case by him, he said, oh, they'll settle out with that. You've got video and everything. They'll settle out $40,000, $50,000. I said, but we've got rights violations here. This should be, a $750,000 case, maybe $1 million. And he goes, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, it being that high.
Well, remember, those lawyers are disadvantaged by a public education also, and the bar cult controlling what they know.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, he's one of the good guys as far as attorneys go. And I like him. I really like this guy. It's just amazing. And then he proceeded to say that in that particular state that we were talking about, where he operates, which is Iowa, he said, oh, I don't think that they even have to take an oath here. I said, well, what are they upholding then?
The barcode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do have to really tell you, Randy, that really speaks well for him, because he had the experience, the knowledge, the competency, and intelligence to listen to you and talk intelligently with you and give you credibility for knowing something, and he was able to learn from you as well as you learn from him. That is synthesis or symbiosis.
Yeah. Well, I told him to analyze some of the stuff that I'm going to send him. I already sent him the video of that particular case. I'm going to send him the rights penalty sheet that says what the fees are for each one of the violations, et cetera. I got other things to send him as well about the oaths. He said that's an interesting concept. I said, you could win right there. You could get rid of any judge you want. So, anyway, somebody else wanted to speak up. I heard somebody in the background.
Oh, I was just saying, this is Dan over here on the East Coast. I was going to tell Chris, I think we need to pronounce that word education as adjudication. I think instead of calling it, education, if we call it what it is. I think they train people through our Department of Education just to get ready, to take orders from the Department of Justice and not ask any questions. And that's why the attorneys wind up being who they are. Ultimately, we're just looking for civil rights counselors at law, not necessarily attorneys or lawyers, because I was reading the history on attorneys and lawyers, and they were outlawed in Virginia back in the 1600s.
That was to you, Chris.
Well, I certainly concur. You're exactly right. We know that there is no proviso in our form of law of government, except perhaps in the corporate world of governments, for attorneys to exist. And they're in violation of the Smith Act, Taft-Hartley Act, Graham-Lamb Act, and the seditious conspiracy to undermine the government of the United States of America Republic. And in fact, I called a lot of them out, and the attorney on the public pretended defender up in Utah had apparently done some research on me on the internet, on some secret site they've got, and had viewed some of my Board of Commissioners meetings when I had spoke out excoriating the sheriff and the attorneys and the bar, and elucidated those very cases I just cited, and spoke against it and how it was a dangerous concept for national security for self-policing that the bar purports to do for itself when it does nothing. And they thought I was too dangerous to have on the stand and would not call me as a witness. They did call my wonderful sweetheart, and she was a marvelous witness, and she didn't fall for many of the tricks and treachery of the pro se executioner, but she was a pretty stalwart witness for the defense, and I was very proud of her performance in there. But there's some treacherous, tricky bastards, I'll tell you.
Well, not because they want to be, because, I mean, people really would do better if they knew better. But, I mean, our Department of Education, along with our Department of Justice, has been hijacked. And if we just all keep in mind that, if people really had an opportunity to know better as little kids, I think everybody would be doing better, and we'd have a better planet Earth. I know people call it the world sometimes because people get whirled up like in a whirlpool and they can't escape the freaking gravitational forces of ignorance being weaponized against them. But, hey, that's why we're all here on this call, so that way we can, raise ourselves up to realize that there is a real document and workplace here, our Constitution. And as long as we stand on our rights, I heard earlier in the conversation that, we needed to turn in our affidavit of status to the Secretary of State, I think, and get it like apostilled or something. I heard Kelby talk about it being an apostilled and everything, and turning it into the Secretary of State. And like Randy was saying about, letting our political status be known, then they can't say, well, we were just assuming that you were acting as a all caps corporate fiction with your name in all caps and all that other craziness that they assume when they continue to try to assert jurisdiction over us by just assuming it. I mean, it's like I've been trying to tell people, we got to rebut the presumption. I think I heard that from you, Chris. We got to rebut the presumption, rebut the presumption, rebut the presumption. All the way.
I apologize if I was being redundant, Dan, but you are correct. Also, the Secretary of State I was speaking to was the United States Secretary of State, as well as perhaps your state Secretary of State, because my contention is they wear two hats, and they act as the de jure and the de facto corporate Secretary of States in the states, and do have still the capacity of the de jure lawful state as well as the corporate de facto state. And so if you notice them in their capacity as the de jure small f state nation of whatever the state is as opposed to the state of, then you might be able to correctly access. And I think the governor wears the hat also as the president of the state, nation, state that you may live within or be a transient sojourner within on a temporary basis until you return to your eternal domicile with your Creator in His heavens, based upon your performance or lack thereof.
That's right. I think this is heaven in disguise, and God's just testing us all. No.
The Americans who are born in in America, they can go to the state, because the state is the one who holds your birth certificate. And the people that are nationalized, came from another country, have to go to the federal, which is the U.S. Department of State. So Americans who are born here do not have to go to the U.S. Department of State.
And you're correct, Gloria. It was the state that sold you into eternal bondservant status as a slave and capitalized and monetized your name under these private foreign bank accounts. And they get paid every year for each person they sold that birth certificate to the Department of Health and Human Services and the Bureau of Vital Statistics under. And that comes from the Nationality Act of 1940. And that's part of what Roger Sales talks about that I spoke of. But these are some pretty high-handed and heavy concepts we're speaking about tonight, and I really enjoy that everyone's interested in those sorts of things, and we're all working together for the benefit of each and every one of us. What a synergistic and wonderful concept. Thank all of you.
Well, basically, the county is the one who captures your birth first, and then whoring to the state, and Secretary of State is whoring to the United States and selling all this. So what do you think? Why do you hear this whore thing in Bible? Okay, it's basically they're whoring us, which is selling our body and the property to the state, and Secretary of State actually gives the authorization to the United States of America corporation. So basically, that's what they're doing, and then they binding your your given name, turning into all caps, and binding your body into that name. Okay, so that's why they are calling whoring. Okay, it's a whore. They are whoring everybody. Okay, and slavering that way.
Hoarding, like hoarding gold, just like hoarding gold. I think they're taking, every time we cash a check, the little letter, the S only has one slash through it. It used to have two vertical lines through it, but now it only has one. I think, and I know I've been doing this, all right, by Dan Durrett, all rights reserved on the back of anything that I cash at the bank for Federal Reserve notes, just to reserve all of my rights and attach the Constitution to the endorsement on the back of the check. But sometimes I'll be like, without prejudice, without recourse, under protest.
If I might offer one small...
The county has been incorporated in like early 1800s, okay, and then they actually incorporated the District of Columbia in 1871. Then they actually created the Corporation Act of 1874. You should read that. It's very, very important title, because every county has been incorporated under that Corporation Act of 1874. Okay, and all these storage township collecting store bills, whatever, and these are all corporations and created by the Act of Corporation Act of 1874. And if you read that title, it could form two ways. One is first class, second, and two is second class. So what it means is first class means any corporation can be formed as a charitable or educational program. So they can call it as a charitable trust or some sort of thing, and it's all going under the St. Luke's some law that the church law is ecclesiastical charitable trust or corporations. So they could make a first class is basically run by donations, and nonprofit organizations. And number 2 is a class that can be formed under corporation, and that will be like bridges, the toll bridges, the ones that collecting the tolls, the ones that collecting the stores in the town. So all these government entities are corporations. And then when the township actually came after me to try to collect the storage bill, I actually told them that you are quasi-municipal corporation, and you're trying to collect the money from the citizens of the Pennsylvania, which I protest that I am not a corporation, a entity, and don't come after me. So I basically said, hey, acceptable value, and I accept your oath of office, and take care of this matter.
What did they come after you for? What was it?
Storage bill. And I haven't paid.
I can't hear that first word. What are you saying? Okay,
Sewer bill.
Oh, sewer bill. Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sewer bill. So I basically, asked them if they're getting funding from federal funding. They say yes. So then you're getting federal funding. Why do you have to collect money from private citizens? So basically,
hey, Gloria, do they include your water bill? Do they include your water bill on your sewer bill, or just the sewer only?
No, my area, we are running with the individual wells we have, so we don't have a water bill, but water bill and sewer bill usually collect by the town. Okay. So actually, it is collected by the corporation, and they're supposed to only collect to a commercial business only. So
you are protesting literally the sewer bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you did that, did you wrote them a letter, or what did you do?
I basically, they sent me a bill and I ignored it, and then they actually filed a case in the county court. And then I noticed that the court name is all capitalized. And then I said, no, you cannot sue me in all capitalized court, because my Constitution said all lowercase. And it says, Pennsylvania Constitution Judiciary Article 5, it basically states that the court of common plea, all lowercase, shall have a judicial power. So you sue me in all capitalized court, and I believe this is a corporation court. And I basically told them that you cannot do that. So I basically accepted the oath of office of the supervisor township, and I accepted for value, and I said, you take care of it, and you have a duty. Okay, and I'm not a first of all corporation entity, and I do not reside in the corporation.
Let me stop you there. This is interesting. When I brought up all cap and letters to this 42 attorney, and I brought up uppercase, lowercase letters, he did not get that, which is, I'm thinking that who you went to, do they really get it? This guy has made a career out of this. And when I brought it up, he called it Scrivener's error. In other words, there's no issue there. I truly don't believe that these people understand that. So when you brought that up, now what's happened?
So actually, I sent that out, and then I actually went after their attorney as well. And then when I sent the attorney, the township attorney, that's when the bill went to the debt collector.
Okay, so they've turned you into a debt collector now.
That's awesome.
Then debt collector do not have any standing to sue.
I know,
so
but that's awesome because you can use Title 15 to kick them.
Yeah, I hope you're going to get them under the FTC.
And then he came back to the county. He came back to the township. And now the township cannot do anything. They just send me the bill.
But they participated in the
Gloria.
fraud.
Gloria, hold on. Go ahead, Dan.
The township participated in the fraud, so when the bill collector got a hold of it, I mean, it's all traceable at that point. That's awesome.
If you don't mind me kicking in for you, Gloria, now they're in violation of Title 15 U.S.C. 1592G under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and they've enjoyed a penalty and a violation that you can collect from them for violating that act of about $1,500 to $2,500.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, and also when you give acceptable value, and if they don't turn that into the U.S. Treasury, guess what they're violating? They're violating money laundering.
Gloria, my hat's off to you. You're a pit bull. This is awesome.
This is better than awesome.
Yeah, that's fun. That's just fun stuff. Gloria, you having a blast out there or what?
So basically, they cannot collect, period. And they just send me the bill, and now they cannot sue me. They can do nothing.
So where are you at with this now? What's happening? Where is it stand right now?
I'm just leaving it alone. I mean, they can do nothing, and the court never proceed, and then it just it's gonna disappear. And same thing happened to my mortgage case. They filed, and then I attacked in private, and then the case basically closed. Then my homeowner association case, they told me I have a violation because I cut the trees and I violated by law. So then I was litigating private with them, and then they sued me for $11,000 in court. And then I was litigating, and then finally the judges say, you pay $39,000, lawyer's fees and all that. So when I got a judgment, I actually tried to drag into the federal court, but then I was 2 days late, and they shut the case down. So then I actually went to the appeal court and started litigating, and the appeal court said, oh, pay this fee, pay that fee. And I said, okay, here is the bonded promise note, and I'll pay you $50. And I put $25 on top of it for your trust fee. So I released the bonded promise note, and Clark says, oh, we cannot accept that. We want money order from post office. So I said, okay, then bring me back the bond. So they want returning my bond, and they want the money. I said, no, you have to return that money, because to me that's the money. So then they returned it finally, right? So then I gave a money order, and then finally start proceeding, and they asking me more money. I said, excuse me, I don't have to pay because the Supreme Court says I don't have to pay, right? So then they trying to say, oh, you did not do this right, do the right, and we're gonna object your motion, blah blah blah. And then I said, no, you cannot do that. Pro se litigants always to correct the record and look at this Supreme Court case, blah blah blah. So I'm correcting the record, so I'm putting it. And then they said, oh, you didn't do it right. Da, 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 da. So they tried to. So then I went after them, and I said, okay, I will sue you at Title 42, 1983, and I'm going to collect $250,000 each violation of the Constitution. And then guess what? The panel decided to close the case. They closed the case. Okay, and then I went the other day to the county and looking at my court cases, and then that $38,000 went to zero.
Wow. Good job.
That's even more awesome, because now you can really go and get them for the fraud conspiracy to deprive you of your property in the first place anyways. They're not off the hook. You got them right where you want them.
You know what I find? That the community never created the bylaw correctly according to the declaration that was done by the developer. And the declaration was supposed to put it in by the Pennsylvania Title 68 PA code. And then the PA code says developer shall create a declaration and record in the county, and then the board, a homeowner association, has to adopt the declaration and then create the bylaws. So then I'm looking, okay, I'm reading this declaration, and declaration says 68% of the residents has to accept and ratify all the bylaws that they create. And then they have to serve, they have to record it, they have to do this and do that, and guess what? They didn't do nothing. So I said, I don't have a contract with them. So I told the judge, I don't have a contract with them. I don't have to pay. I don't have to do nothing. And then the judge said, you pay, you know. That's how it started. And it went up all the way to $38,000. And then appellate court decided to shut it down, you know. So now the board cannot collect nothing from me. The homeowner association has been basically doomed, you know, and I haven't paid a homeowner association fee since 2008.
And now they can't recover. Good.
You know. And
okay.
they just send me an invoice, but, you know, they have no ground. And they know I'm going to sue them in federal court as soon as they try to do something. So.
Interesting. By the way, in the beginning when I talked about the gentleman and there was an initial pullover and he did the 72-hour rescind and then he countersued the cop for $10,000. In that pullover, the cop also cited him because it was either him or his wife was driving without a license. And, of course, he challenged that as well, and all the charges were dropped against him when he filed that countersuit, et cetera, and then the cop quit and everything.
Randy,
I thought I'd point
coming up in court. I
got
got a case coming up in court exactly like that.
Hold on, Gloria. Say that again. Was it Dan? Hold on, Gloria. One at a time. Dan,
I've got a case. Yeah, I've got a case coming up in court where I was pulled, no driver's license, no insurance, no registration. I sent in my 3-day rescind that Uric. I know he says his name is Eric, but it's pronounced Uric when you're on Randy Shannon's call.
I always call him Uric. Okay, go ahead.
But he knows he's cool with it because he knows it's got the U in his name. I did the same thing. I was like, hey, I failed to fill out in the 8th grade. I would have said Uric too. So, but
right.
But you know, I sent in the paperwork and did the whole rescind of sale 72 hours, and then when they sent me the paperwork back, they said the clerk of court is no longer with the court. And I thought, well, that's kind of funny. Maybe they fired him because I sent in that other paperwork on the last speeding ticket, and he didn't freaking figure out what to do with it or something. I don't know, but so they sent it back to me. I turned around and mailed it right back to them, and then I got it back in the mail just the other day, so I took my video camera out and actually videotaped the envelope as I was opening it just to prove what they had sent me from the court. Okay. And there's some letter from the courthouse saying, you know, hey, you're not supposed to send us the originals back, the copies back because those are for you. And you know, they just sent me whatever I sent them back. This was the second time they sent it back to me, but this time they sent the letter. So I don't know what to do in this case, and I don't have any funds to really do anything at this point or even hire anybody because I'm so broke. Any advice?
Well, he filed a countersuit against the cop, and you could file a countersuit against the cop. There's plenty of Supreme Court case law to uphold that, and the cop is acting in treason, and you can sue him individually, of course, and watch him probably disappear like this guy's did.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm wondering, like, because in my case, I mean, I was just driving down the boulevard, you know. I mean, this guy says he pulls me over for no registration, and I'm just like...
But Dan, I want you to go and read your state title, vehicle title. It says, if you are not operating a motor vehicle that is less than 10,000 pounds, you do not need to a license. Just read those vehicle titles. You're going to get remedy because that titles are really important. You know, I was kind of avoiding these codes and statutes, but actually when I started going in and digging in, I found great these are great laws because I found the remedies in everywhere, okay? And basically, like when I read the PA title, it says the residence, okay, a person, resident means a person who is residing, within the Commonwealth. Then the Commonwealth is not the state because that's what it says. The state means small s, state, and Commonwealth. So if it listed as a state and Commonwealth, then obviously Commonwealth is not the state. Then it says, then I don't reside within the Commonwealth, is it? So basically, then within Commonwealth, if somebody is transporting goods and a person and property,
you got just a little bit of background noise, Gloria.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Keith.
Oh, she wasn't done, Keith. Hold on. Gloria, do you want to hold on 1 second? Okay, go ahead, Keith.
Yes, I'm facing a similar situation, and I looked in the Florida annotated statutes, which gives you the whole definition of what the legislature actually meant in the laws, and it states in there that there's only 3 types of license, and they're commercial license, which is Class A, Class B, and Class C.
Right.
So if you're not in commerce, which license are you supposed to have? That's a question that needs to be asked. I'm not in commerce, so which license am I supposed to have? Right? Now in Florida, they have a Class D license, but that's not even in the statutes. There's no provision in the statutes for a Class D license. And the vehicles are only supposed to be registered if it's a commercial vehicle of a certain weight. Right?
I have heard a judge, my own son was in the courtroom, and one of the cops in the courtroom said, "Let me see your license." So first he asked if he was under investigation, and he said no, and the judge said, no, you're fine. So he turns and gives him the license, and the cop wouldn't give it back right away, and my son said something about, well, you can go ahead and keep it because I don't need it anyway because I'm not a commercial driver. And the judge immediately said to him, "Don't try that. That won't work." And he said, "I've been a judge for 30-some years, and that is not going to work in the courtroom." So my son was and then the cops in the background were saying, "Get him for contempt, get him for contempt." I mean, it was a lawless courtroom. And my son walked in with his Black's Law and his Constitution and several other things that he put up. And he said, before he said that about the license, he said, "Well, if this is a constitutional courtroom, then I don't need that anyway." The judge wasn't hearing it. So what's the fight?
Randy,
the fight is to turn around and file a lawsuit against them. Go ahead.
Say, Randy, you never gave me an update on your son with his picking up the deer's head or whatever it was violation for the federal repository there that we talked about. You were going to let me know about it. You never let anybody know about it.
Well, because it's still being drawn out, and the federal prosecutor wants to hang everybody's butt all over the place. And so there's going to be a promissory note that's going to be paid. But we're going to get him to ask the judge how he wants to be paid. So they have cited him because it's drug out. They weren't accepting any kind of rescission. They played all kinds of games in the very beginning where they tried to, he was in another state. And so they tried to get him to do hold the hearing because he couldn't go back. So they tried to get him to hold the hearing over basically the computer in front of a camera. And I told him absolutely do not do that. So he stayed out of that. So they went ahead and held court without him. And in their mind, was guilty. It's considered a misdemeanor, but they are wanting to hang him up for it. So, the long and short of it, you guys, is 5 years probation they want. 5 years probation for picking up over 10-year-old elk antlers that were apparently on federal land, but he was outside of Yellowstone. He was hiking 10 miles out into the backcountry.
Sounds like cruel and unusual punishment under the Constitution to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Any violation on a federal property, like a traffic court case, it has to be adjudicated in a state. Because basically Title 16, it talks about the state shall have the criminal and civil jurisdiction on any land that is ceded to the government, federal government. So it says in and over the land and water shall be adjudicated in state courts. So in or over the land and water. So state with a big S shall have the judicial the authority. So what does that mean? A state with a big S has the interest of the land, interest of the usury right. So not the small s, but big S has the interest. So big S is running on the Admiralty on the transportation. So read a transportation, what it means. It says move property person for hire. So now if your vehicle code in your state code will say vehicle means transport. So if there's any words, vehicle or transport means for hire. So you can't even call your car as a vehicle. You have to call your car as household goods or consumer goods under UCC 9.
Or conveyance.
Consumer goods.
What was that, Dan?
I was just saying, or we could call it a conveyance instead of a vehicle. We call it conveyance.
Yeah, so go and look at the Black's Dictionary transportation. It basically said it's according to the Interstate Commerce Act of 1887. So you go to that act, and it's all about commercial trucks and buses.
So how are the state courts ignoring this every single day?
They have to bring it to the federal.
I know how to answer that.
Somebody has to have judicial power, because judicial power, judge only have a power to review the laws, and the judge of the judicial bench has the power. And all the state courts actually remove the judicial power by the 11th Amendment Constitution. So basically, state court doesn't have any judges reviewing. They're all administrative court.
Who said they had an answer to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, the judges are only interested in all caps corporate fictional talk. And I think Chris can play on that rhetoric better than I can, because they're so used to it, because they were inbred with it, and also too, I've been to homeowners associations meetings. Most of them show up drunk, Jack Daniels, the whole. I don't mean to advertise there because I don't drink, but the older ones especially, they've always had a glass of wine or an alcoholic beverage. And these towns and these little municipalities and these cities, they're all ran by homeowners associations, basically, board of directors, private stockholders, and private investors. and they get a little bit of power. And if you really look in people's eyes, you can tell that they've had a drink the night before, especially if you're the kind of person that doesn't drink, or if you haven't drank for a while, or if you're really looking out for that. And it's the alcohol that's clouding people's minds, and these people are only interested in the money, and they think that, well, we've attracted it into our lives, so obviously God must be blessing us or something. So, they just think that it's righteously theirs, and that, people are sinners, and they're natural-born sinners, and they deserve to have the punishment, and this whole freaking tribal mantra. I think everybody remembers the movie Indiana Jones, where the little Indian kid was like, Indy, 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 wake up, and then the kid pokes Indy in the stomach with the hot poker. This was after Indy had drank the blood, after he was forced to drink the blood. And Indy didn't realize that he was in a big trance. All these judges do not realize, all these clerks, these prosecutors, I'm telling you, if people knew better, they would do better, but they don't realize that they're in a trance, because the weaponization of the ignorance has been played against the people of our entire planet. And this has been going on for God only knows how long. It's going to stop, because obviously we're talking about it, and that's why we're all here, kind of like we're all waking up from the Matrix and stuff. But that's kind of my short answer for. That's why they're doing it. They don't know that they're doing it, and if they know that they're doing it, they're just stupid freaking greedy.
All right. Okay. So we've got two options. Gloria's, which is taking it into federal court and suing them there, Title 42, or we can do a counter suit in that first 72 hours. And by the way, this gentleman still to this day drives without a license, so does his wife. They neither of them pay property tax. And
can you divulge his name?
Yeah, we did. It is Milt, M-I-L-T, and the last name is, I think it was Milchek. I'll give you the spelling. Anybody can look him up and look up cases if you can find him. Mitchek, M-I-T-C-H-E-K.
Did he have a website?
And, no website. Remember, he stays under the radar a little bit, and he wrote a book in 2001 called Vultures, which I have a copy on the way.
Oh, cool. And will you be putting that up on your website, Vultures, a link to the like the other things on the website?
I don't know how the book is going to come, so I'll let you know how I'm going to have it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, hardbacks, I got to tear it apart, binder, what, but I'll do something so that I can get everyone a copy of it. Okay?
Yay. Yay.
And it sounds like a blockbuster. I'm going to just look at my notes here. Does anybody have any cases that they want to bring up? We have some great people on the call tonight that might be able to help you with your case. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss?
Yeah, that case I'm involved with, if anybody doesn't have a burning desire, I'll wait.
Oh, this is Andrew.
Go ahead if you want to talk about yours. I'm going to race across the house. I got 20% of battery. If that happens again. Okay, go ahead if you want to tell us about your case.
Well, actually, I spoke briefly before this program started, and I have a case coming up for foreclosure on March the 4th. And I was just wondering who would be able to, where do I go for any help?
Well, I'm going to get you the information of the gentleman who does the promissory notes. That's one option. Does anybody else want to jump out there? Gloria, if you're interested, I'll give him your information if you want to potentially give him an option on foreclosure, or does anybody want to say anything if it can be brief? Because we're around at 10 o'clock.
The first thing you want to do is to deny the debt, demand validation of the debt by lawful proof. You certainly want to know that they have the right to be the one that's supposed to be collecting the alleged debt, how much they claim that you owe. where they got their authority to collect the debt from, who granted them that authority. If they weren't one of the original contracting parties, then how did they become interested with a vested interest in collecting this debt? The likely third-party debt collectors are some sham foreclosure mill agency or court law firm that is absolutely trying to steal the money because it's probably already been set off and satisfied by insurances or title insurance or other performances that they probably paid for whenever they consummated the loan.
Don't go into too much detail. All you have to do is you create an affidavit and say, I never have borrowed money. I never received any loafer money. Bank never gave me any record of releasing loafer money. Promissory note is a substitute of money, okay? And gold and silver is prohibited to use it as a money, all right? And you're basically denying everything, all right? So you put on affidavit, and then if the bank actually put an endorsement and it says pay to the order of without recourse, then you get the Black's Law Dictionary and get the meaning of what without recourse means. Means the party does not have any liability to collect any money. You know, so you can put a promissory note as an exhibit, and you do that. And this party, who assumed to be party of interest, stole the note, and it's endorsed without recourse. So you draw an affidavit, okay, that the other party never put any evidence into the law that I received loafer money.
Thank you.
Okay, so loan has to be loafer money, and I never received it, period. All right, so that's pretty powerful, and you do that affidavit, and you can serve to the other party, and towards the end, it says if you do not rebut this affidavit within 30 days, it will be going on default. That's it. But the other party has to rebut it, and that's the true common law court. So you create the common law court and tell the judge that we, the people, we do not have a time to study 6 million laws, and government doesn't pay us money, and we are given a common law court, and public officers guarantee that we're going to have a common law court on the 7th Amendment Constitution. So here we go. And affidavit is the common law remedy, and the other party has to rebut it. That's it. You are not knowing law. You don't know anything about the court rules, and we the people do not have to understand the court rules, but we know that we could do affidavit, and the other party has to rebut it. That's it.
And if you didn't get all that, you can dial back into the playback number, which is 805-399-1299, and you can play Gloria all over again. Same passcode, 805-399-1299. Passcode is 779159. Thank you, Gloria. Was there any other cases that anybody wanted to bring up? I have, well, go ahead. Was it Dan? Did you want to bring up yours?
Yeah.
Is it you?
Yeah, anything that I can do to elaborate on mine, because my circumstances has changed. I'm in the middle of trying to file my accident case in federal court. I know Gloria promoted me to do that, and I just wanted to let her know that I am proceeding to federal court on filing that here any day now. hopefully tomorrow, possibly. Well, it won't be tomorrow. It probably won't be till beginning of next week. But I have a complex circumstance because now that they've suspended the driver's license, and now they're trying to cite me for no insurance, no registration, and I have a bench warrant out for my arrest that I've been avoiding for over 6 months because they see in my kidnapping case when I was kidnapped on July the 6th. Yeah, it was July the 6th on Saturday of last year. You know, I went to the police station to tell the police at the police station that police officers at another scene had put their hands on their weapons with aggression, and they just laughed at me whenever I said anything about it. They just ultimately turned it around on me, and I've already talked to Chris about this, and he's helped me out a lot. But they just turned it around on me and tried to haul me in for failed ID and what was the other one? Oh, disorderly conduct. Which, Randy, I know you told me about Aaron Toby and all of us a long time ago. I actually went and met James Neasley in Williamsburg here recently. Couple of times and stuff, and I really want to hire him, but he charges $250 an hour, and I just don't have the funds. But I know because Aaron Toby got charged with the same thing, Richmond International Airport, where that was a win against the TSA, by the way. So, but he got charged with disorderly conduct as well too. So I know I can beat my case. I know I can beat the charges and win and stuff like that. But I'm so scattered right now. Being on the run and stuff like that. I haven't stayed in the same motel for more than a couple of months at a time.
Right.
It's just been, I look behind me every step of the way nowadays while I'm traveling down the street and stuff. And I know my rights, so it doesn't scare me to do what I'm doing either, because I've been studying this stuff ever since I got into my accident back in 2012. But at the same time, this officer who pulled me over in January for the registration and everything didn't check mark the boxes. Hey, you don't have to come to court if you pay them. So I'm like, well, if I go to court, they're going to arrest me for a bench warrant. And if I do go to court, then it's just so my head's just spinning right now. I got all this stuff, and I know I'm going to feel better tomorrow when I go back and listen to this call. But I'm just kind of spinning right now. And I've got a private investigator helping me on my case, and I think things are going to work out. But and I know Gloria said that I need to look at some of those motor vehicle code statutes and go back and listen to this call as well too. But any added advice to, and I am using Eric's paperwork, with doing the 3-day rescind and everything. So I don't know what's really going to wind up happening, but it's just
when there's a warrant out for.
What you need to do is you also need to do an affidavit and say, I never engaged in commercial activity. Mm-hmm. My car is called consumer goods, and I cannot call it vehicle because vehicle states that it transports. Okay, and transports means carrying person and properties for hire. So my consumer goods cannot be called a vehicle, and this public officer requests a driver license. And driver license, I only can keep it only if I desire to drive any commercial trucks or buses over 10,000 pounds. So I have a right to carry driver license only if I am going to engage in commercial activity. But at the moment,
therefore, maybe
arrested,
file a lawsuit against him. File a counter claim against him. And, maybe I'll even, I'm going to reach out to this gentleman because, this Milt, because this is the same kind of case. It was a driver's license issue. This guy didn't have one. He's got you on other things. And Gloria's right. You weren't in commerce. So he got rid of it, and the cop goes on the run. The cop went on the run. So how about that? Let's turn the cop on the run instead of you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want the cop to lose his job. I know they don't know any better because Virginia Beach trains them to be that way, I mean, because there's nothing but a bunch of rich people here. This is where the military's home is and stuff. There's a lot of corruption here because these people are just trained to be, go out there, go to war, protect the country, protect and serve.
Right, but actually, how many people they're damaging? Okay?
Oh,
You
God,
have to go
they're freaking
after
damaging
them.
all of us. They're damaging all of us and themselves and their families and their future generations, and they don't even realize it. I feel so sorry for everybody here that's putting up with it. It's like it's an indirect tyranny, like society's almost eating itself alive and it doesn't even realize it. But this is the moral breakdown that freaking caused, some of the worst moments that we've recently witnessed in history just over the past 150 years. It's just, if people only knew it, if they knew it like we knew it,
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep over the cop going on the run. You're losing sleep and you're on the run. You know what I mean?
Oh, my God. I've been losing sleep since I went to court, too, man, because they told me my court date for the kidnapping case. And I say kidnapping because that's what they did, man. They just arrested me for nothing. I was standing there in the freaking lot, in the parking lot that day when I went to the police station to file a police report. I wanted to tell somebody, I was like, you can't just put your hand on your weapon and like that. It's just absolutely freaking assault, ever since I found, because they told me on my bond paperwork and everything, because I had to bond out of jail. There was no way for me to survive in jail with my accident. I'm suffering from whiplash. I still suffer from whiplash every day, just from 2 years ago. But, and then the magistrate forced me to sign my name because I signed, by Dan Durrett, all rights reserved under protest. They threw me back in jail on Monday after the judge had already said, $1,500 bond. It's just absolutely tyranny.
Yeah, see, the bond is just money. So if you send them a promissory note and include the bond money, in one case that I was working with Eric on, we called the clerk of court direct, and they said, well, he still has to turn his body in. And he said, okay, well, what do you want? There's a bond. And he said, well, how much is the bond? And she said, $2,400 or $2,500. So in the promissory note, not only for the fines or citations or whatever, they included the bond money. So an additional $2,500, and then threw him some extra fiat just for good measure. So we're kind of waiting to hear the results on that one. Yeah. So that's a possibility. Pay for the bond in the promissory note.
See, if you read the transportation meaning, it says Interstate Commerce Act, and that is 1887. They created this act. So interstate commerce, we can use UCC, okay, and all these notes are basically promissory notes, and you're returning the tickets. All that is under UCC code. So now you have to push that and tell the court that it is related to interstate commerce Act of 1887. So now, we are on the water in Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, and the UCC code is valid in this courtroom. That's it. So
sure, I'm still dealing with the bench warrant from the
so
kidnap
I could tender
case,
a bond or promissory note, any money for the fictions. So settle the claim.
And at this point, you're pretty much not able to walk into the courtroom to even file anything, right? Because you're kind of afraid to.
Afraid, and I don't have any money, and I'm barely paying my rent at this point, and it's just been an absolute nightmare, and my landlord kicked me out months ago. It's just one thing after the next.
Yeah. Is there, Gloria, can he have somebody else, or Chris, can he have someone else go in and file a counterclaim against this cop? Can someone else physically file that?
All you have to do is you have to create an affidavit and file into the federal court. You just have to get the documents certified, and you prove that you've been incarcerated or abused or harassed by the courts and public officer, and you have to file into the federal court.
And that's going to put a stop to the state
file an affidavit, and you don't have to file a professional federal court case. All you have to do and say, I so-and-so, Dan, a man coming into this court for claim, and I've been damaged. Okay, and here's my affidavit, and I want X amount of dollars. That's it. You just
and
file
that
it.
does take the dogs off immediately on the state stuff.
Yeah, I
The
need a
sergeant may
federal,
stop
I need
you
a temporary
and say
restraining
you
order
have
against
to
the
file
court.
a
Oh.
filing fee, okay, and you just say, Supreme Court say so, that I don't have to pay any fees. That's it. You file it. You don't need any money. And then you serve to the party anybody who is over 18.
Does that help?
Yeah, it's helping. It'll help me more to go back and re-listen to it and stuff. I know I got to get my thoughts together and stuff, but it's so overwhelming fighting the whiplash every day now for 2 years, and then everything kind of happened in the way that it happened. But I'm grateful for, being on all the calls and everything and learning.
Gotcha.
At least I don't feel hopeless like last time I was sitting there in jail for 4 days. I was like, whatever. I was like, I know these people are freaking wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to sit there and feel guilty. Oh, I'm a sinner because I was driving without a license, or I'm a sinner because I went to the police station for making a report against a police officer who had his hand on his weapon, and then I had trying to, make it seem like I'm breaking the law, and all this craziness that I grew up with and everybody else grew up with. It's like, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe God allows that kind of stuff to happen, or maybe God doesn't, and it really is just free will and the appearance of free will. But I don't have to sit here and blame God for it or blame the devil for it, because I know there's an ignorance factor that's involved here somehow, and the only thing that I can do about it is try to tell people about it as best as I know how. But it's just a struggle. I mean, it's just a struggle, and not being able to do anything, not being able to think straight. Studying as much as I like to, it's just, golly, I've never been in more of a struggle in my life.
You do not have understanding. The
Right.
government officers are officers only if they have an oath of office. If they don't have an oath of office, they have no authority over you, because they're all corporation and created under Corporation Act of 1874. So what corporation have authority over you?
They can have any authority that they want
your...
while they're standing over me with a pair of handcuffs and a gun, and they're freaking keeping me in jail for however long that they want to. I don't care who they are or what kind of authority they don't think that they have, or they do think that they have. They still have the authority to take my life from me and freaking put a bullet in my head.
In the state court has a lot of power, because a state, what does a state means? It's a county. County means church. So they're backed by Vatican. Okay,
the county means church? Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
County means a church in Title I, United States Code. Read it.
Wow.
County means parish, and it says include. You know what that means, include. When they say include, that's it. Whatever include. And it says county means parish, and it is a state, a subdivision of a state. So then, a subdivision of a state is a county, and a county is a parish. Then parish is a county, and the parish is a state.
That's why they call them parishes in Louisiana.
So a state is a church too.
Because they're all churches, and they got rid of the separation of powers.
So subdivision of a state is a county. So then what is a state? Isn't that the church too?
It is the church, because it was joined together.
Yeah, so the county is incorporated as a first class, as I told you, on the Corporation Act. There's only two classes. One is the parish or any charitable organization, and police is a charitable organization. They are run by nonprofit. You get a phone call from police and say, would you please donate to charity? Police estates, police corporation, polices are all charitable corporation.
Wow.
So you tell them, here is an act of 1874, and here are a charitable corporation. created under District of the United States, corporate United States, and all belong to District of Columbia.
Wow. It's amazing, Gloria.
So,
You're absolutely a wealth of information. It's absolutely incredible.
So go and read the Act of 1874. You will see what can be, which corporation is formed under that, and which corporation is formed under Class 2. They're all of them are corporation. It is what's, you have to be able to distinguish which one is Class 1 and which one is Class 2.
Okay, and then you won't have to be on the run anymore.
Yeah, I don't want to. Well,
they're a corporation. That's it.
I've learned a lot. It gives me a taste of what everybody else is really dealing with out there.
This past weekend on Saturday on the Fox affiliate station that I co-host on, and I'm curious what people know about this woman, Karen Hughes. She's a World Bank whistleblower. Is anybody familiar with her? Okay. Some say she's disinfo, some say she's not. I kind of believe that some of the stuff that she puts out is wrong. Whether it's on purpose or not, I don't know the answer to that. But lost my train of thought. That's how quick that happens at 46.
Well, you're talking about some of the information and what she's doing about being a whistleblower.
Yes, thank you. You brought it back. Okay, one of the things that she said, because I was really hammering her on remedy. Where's this going to go? How are we going to put an end to this? And she said what it's going to take is a lot more people, grassroots level and high level, whistleblowing and people getting arrested. In other words, if you're arrested, then guess what? You're forced to turn around and learn and fight. And she said the more people that are getting arrested, and these atrocities that are happening by, the whole police state, the more it's bringing the light upon it all. So while it totally is not fun, like especially what you're going through, and we all know somebody who's going through something, or people that are on the call are going through it themselves, it's making us all turn around and learn the law. The real law and our real rights.
That's true.
So, and she will be on again this Saturday. We held her over for a second weekend. Gloria, do you know anything about Karen?
Huh?
Do you know anything about her? Do you know her?
I don't know. It's supposed to RV soon, but at like $40.
What's this?
At $40 a piece.
What are you talking about?
You said dinar?
No. Do you know Karen Hughes? Who she is?
Oh, Karen Hughes?
Yeah, you could say it like that.
Karen Hughes. Oh, yeah, she used to work for World Bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think she's on the up and up, or what do you think?
Yeah, she's correct what she's talking about.
Okay. And you're talking about the dinar. Is something happening with that?
Oh, dinar, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dinar's supposed to RV soon, but
revalue. Say revalue.
Revalue.
Because a lot of people don't know everything that we know, so I'm hoping that new people come on the call and can pick up on this. And
okay.
But please continue. Tell us about the dinar, because that's hot news right now, Gloria.
Yeah, what's going on with that, Gloria?
Huh? Dinar?
What's going on with that?
It's supposed to reevaluate, I guess, in March.
Okay.
So
it's down the road.
People are very hopeful.
Dan, do you know anything?
There's people always feeling hopeful, then there's people always feeling not hopeful.
I know Cindy knows more about it than I do. I sent you Cindy's number to that one email address. So we need to get whoever they are on the call, because they know all of it. They study it. I'm trying to just get rid of a bench warrant and get my accident case filed in federal court before I get locked up in jail for some reason. If I can get my federal case court filed, then, at least I'll, get my accident, because I got to get my accident money. We're suing the insurance company for mail fraud, and then we're going to be suing doctors for all the malpractice and everything. So it's a super huge case. But if I had the extra money, God, I'd love to buy Dinar. We know that current do get revalued.
There's plenty of people that'll put you on a payroll or something, and like $1 million a year or something. When it all works out, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, because we're freaking going to be more knowledgeable than we ever would have dreamed of.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing the amount of knowledge.
That's right. Does anybody have any other questions or anything? Any cases? If not, I had one thing to bring up, and Gloria, I hope you stay on here. And anybody else? We lost Chris. I think he's gone. But
yes, I have.
Does anybody have anything else?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Who is that?
Yes, this is Don.
You were the one I was about to read your question.
Right. You read my questions last week.
Well, I actually, you think I did, but you probably listened. When did you hear that?
Well, I just got it on the replay.
Yeah, that replay was actually from the attorney, so you got some answers there, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I was wanting to know if you can address them now. Did Gloria and the others and Dan weigh in on those questions?
Yeah, I wish that we had Chris still on, but do you want to read your questions? Go ahead.
I don't have them. Could you hold 1 second? Let me see.
Sure. While you're getting them, I'll read your first one. After filing a civil rights case under Title 42, Section 1983, under informer pauperis, the judge dismissed the complaints against judges on the basis of absolute immunity. This was prior amending the complaint, delineating the charges, or even serving the defendants. Can you rescind the informer pauperis and pay the filing fee, and thereby refile the complaint under 1983, 85, 86, and ? Or could it be argued that there was no dismissal since the court issued the order with the plaintiff's name in all caps? Gloria or anybody want to weigh in on that?
Golly, that's a good question.
I sent a document for that, all the answers.
You sent it over to me? Let me go look.
Yep.
I knew
Tell us off the top of your head that one, just so everyone can hear it, Gloria, if you would.
You do not have to pay any fees, and you do not have to file the paupery form, because the paupery form is designed for the citizen of the United States or U.S. citizen. So you can come in as a national or one of the people and bring the Supreme Court cases.
Okay.
Well, I could rescind then the informer pauperis and come in as an American national.
Because in the form asks you, do you have an income? Okay, what is the income according to Title 26? It's a commercial gain from stock market. So did you do any activities in the District of Columbia? That's what they're asking you. Now, can you answer that? You can't, because you haven't done any commercial activities in District of Columbia, so you cannot file that form.
True.
So if you are national, you are tax filing exempt. So how can you file a 1040 tax form if you are not a U.S. citizen? You can't.
Does that help, Don?
Yes, it does.
Gloria, are you in front of a computer? Can you forward that to me? Because I do not see it in my inbox.
And what about the upper and lowercase when she sent the order back with my name in all caps as opposed to upper and lowercase as I initially filed?
You could always put a line after the box. You create a name on the below. You could leave it as it is, and you put your proper name, your last name first, comma, and then your first name after that, and the middle name. And then you say you are man or woman, or national, acting as a national, or, a victim, man and a victim, whatever. So you write below that box, leave the plaintiff and defendant alone, or you can put a plaintiff in error or defendant in error, and you could put your proper name, and you can bring other parties in their proper name. And then in your state law rules, it says the party has to bring the claim with a proper name. So then anyone who violates your rights has to be there. They can't just come in as a state of blah, blah, blah. No. Individual party has to bring in their own name. So you got to put their name, as a party. So you draw, on that box, leave the plaintiff and defendant alone. Then you write you and other parties underneath.
Okay, well, I'm the plaintiff here, and the judge is the one that responded, because the defendants have not been served. So the judge was the one that responded, and she changed my original name, upper and lowercase letters, to the corporate fiction. So should I write back to the judge and if they refuse for cause, or what should I do? Just do similar to what you just said?
First, you serve. The important thing is to have the case going.
Okay.
And then you probably want to file a entry of appearance, okay? And then you say, I am appearing as a man.
Notice of appearance?
Do not say pro se or anything. I am, defendant is been harassed, or defendant is all caps. Then you draw a line and you put your name. And then you say, a man. I was a living man, a breathing man, a living, breathing man. Okay? And so you want to actually file a notice of appearance and say, special, I am appearing, I am a living man, breathing flesh and blood, created by Almighty God, and appearing in this court, a special appearance and not general.
Okay, this is
so you want to say I am acting as a national by birth, and the government, sovereign government, gave me a national name, all caps. So now you're claiming that all caps name is a national. So now, you could use the cap name as a national. That's your claim. Now they have to rebut it. That's a corporation or what? But you claiming that that's national's name. So government gave me this title, and this is a national title. I'm an American national.
Okay, I could do this in federal court as well.
Yeah, any court.
But because I'm the plaintiff in the federal court, not the defendant.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which court. You gotta make sure that you invoke that common law court.
Okay.
and say you are acting as, you say, my given name, David Jones, a lowercase or all lowercase, AKA, all caps. And this title is given by my sovereign government as a national. So I'm acting as a national, American national. But I'm a living, breathing man, and God created, and I'm not a national either. But sovereign government gave me a national. So I'm a national. I act as American national.
Okay.
Is this Don?
Did you send that over again?
Stacey's friend?
Gloria, did you send that over again? I'm just watching for it.
Oh, hold on one second. I have to open up my email. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
Is this Don, Stacey's friend?
Yes.
Sounded like you, Don. How you doing? This is Dan.
Oh, Dan, great to hear from you. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, brother. I'm hanging in there, man.
That's good. That's good.
I'm sending you a little email here on a void judgment call that Fred did back on November 19, 2013. It won't necessarily help you with what you're talking about, but kind of what I started thinking about.
Oh, great.
Copy me on that, will you, Dan?
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Thank you.
Randy, could you, when Gloria sends you that, could you send it to me?
Yeah.
I'm sending it to all three of y'all right now, including Gloria. It's in my Dropbox. Y'all just log into my Dropbox. Go to Dropbox.com, use my email address and my password as well. You'll see it in the email here. I got a bunch of things in there, but you're welcome to look at whatever's in there.
All right, Gloria, I'm going to stay on you. Are you sending that?
What day you send me that?
Maybe around the 13th, 14th, 15th. And it said queries or something like that. All right.
On the 14th, I send it to you.
Yeah, I don't have anything in here on the 14th. From you.
So take a look at on the 14th.
I just have one email from you on the 13th regarding the gold.
Came from Randy.
The Gmail or, oh, okay, all right, let's go.
Randy's, your name. The document is queries. gmail.com.
Okay.
All right, I'm forwarding that to you again. Hold on a second.
Great, thank you. Dan just got that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. This is the 19th call, so...
Okay, it's sent already.
Okay.
19. This was the call that Fred and Nina did on the 19th. He quoted all kinds of, and Nina quoted all kinds of Supreme Court case rulings on void judgment, and they also talked about, I forget the dang thing, res judicata, and how res judicata can be voided as well too.
Is this like the 19th as in yesterday? Are they doing calls?
The 19th as in November of 2013, just a few weeks before the December the 5th call when they had to take a break.
Okay. And they're still going, right?
No, they're still taking a break. And I listened to that call 3 or 4 times just to kind of listen to the backside of the voice DNA, and it just sounded like to me that, you know, they needed to take a break and, you know, focus on their own personal cases because, you know, some things definitely shifted and stuff. But last I heard from my sources, they're doing well.
Oh, good.
I haven't heard anything bad, and that's good news because I've got sources from all around the country, so I haven't heard anything bad. That's really good news.
All right. They must be sending it to my spam because it is not in there again. So let me go down to spam. I do have a question. Let me throw this in there. This gentleman sent this to me. What if I am not operating as a U.S. citizen, but rather as a man, the original native / officer of the government? What then? That's a question. That's from Greg.
That's pretty cool because I think we're all really Indians because we're naturally born on the land like Indians who were here before, so we should all qualify for Indian stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how to tie it all together. Gloria is so 80,000 hours into all this. It's just like, you know, she's got it all, you know, in her mind, you know, memorized. I just need more time, more study time and stuff. So going back to the man's question there.
Yeah, I'm not getting it, Gloria. Did you send it to the support, or which one you sent it to? Gmail?
Gmail.com.
Yeah, it's not coming through. It's not sitting in my spam either, and that's why I didn't get it the first time you sent it, probably. Just throw it out there, randyshannon@gmail.com, which is RANDI, correct?
I used the same address that your mail came in.
All right, well, it's not in yet. Don, when that comes through, I'll forward it on, and if it doesn't, I'll. But I think this is probably a good place to cut it. 10:37, you guys, almost 11. Does anybody want to discuss anything else? If not, we'll go ahead and check the call for the night.
Real quick, this is Donna from Philadelphia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, Gloria. We had spoken on the phone and had lunch together in New York. And I was planning on maybe coming up your way sometime in March. I wondered if you could give me a call and we could meet somewhere in your part of town. You remember me?
Coming to Pennsylvania?
Yes, I'm in Philadelphia. And you're just in the Poconos, right?
Okay.
We're on a recorded line.
Yeah, I lost your number and all, so.
I'm going to shut the recording off just so that kind of stuff isn't on. Hold on.